What is up, guys? Welcome on back to the news with TK. And it looks like Tulsi Gabbard is done screwing around, man. There is now a criminal referral that has been sent to the Department of Justice. This is breaking, and it encompasses the former President Obama, Brennan, Clapper, Comey. It's about to go down. Roll the intro. So I'm going to get into this clip here because it just broke. But yes, Tulsi Gabbard did file or did put a criminal referral in on everything that had to do with the Russian collusion hoax. And basically saying that when the intelligence community came back and said that this was a non-starter or non-issue and that Russia really didn't do anything, the Obama administration said, go back, get me some other intelligence. Roll this clip.
Well, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard says she has identified, quote, overwhelming evidence to show how Obama-era officials manufactured the Trump-Russia collusion hoax after he was elected in 2016. Here is DNI Gabbard on what she found.
Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. Creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic, and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
Wow, this is a lot. And the DOJ just received that referral from DNI Gabbard.
Yeah, so Tulsi Gabbard said that she was going to turn over the documents this morning. She did the official turnover. And so now it goes to the DOJ. We'll see what they find out. Let them do the investigation. Let them look into it. Look at the accusations. I mean, look, this is something that happened nearly a decade ago. So certainly I think it would be maybe good for the American people to get more clarity and more information. Does it need to go beyond that? Hard to say, especially on the legal side. But the other thing I thought about with all of this is, you know, if you're the president of the United States today, you're in your second term. You won. Despite what maybe Obama or Hillary Clinton or anybody else that was associated with this hoax, whatever they were responsible for or did, you won again, term two. And we're now at the 6-month mark for Donald Trump. And look how great the stock market is doing. The border is closed. So maybe look at that instead.
Nicole, Congressman Pat Fallon told me last hour, Republican congressman, that if there was something that was law-breaking here, that there should be accountability because this is so problematic. And he seems to think he couldn't release everything that he's already seen. Well, no one can at this point, but he said as this becomes more public, you'll see what I'm talking about.
And I agree with him 100% because, again, if you broke the law, if they actually did participate in this, I do believe in accountability. And I do believe that there should be tangible consequences for this type of behavior, because what this does is it's not just the crime that was committed allegedly. It's that you destroy the trust of these intel agencies, of these law enforcement agencies, the CIA, the FBI, all of these agencies involved in that. And again, I was at the FBI in 2016, and I can tell you that this was the first time that I really felt, wow, the FBI has been politicized. And I was down in FBI Miami. Oh, yeah. It was July 5th of 2016 when Jim Comey came out and said no reasonable prosecutor will charge Hillary Clinton. I will never forget that moment. And I'm down in FBI Miami working violent crime. Literally, the next day, I was given a case of a child who had been raped by her biological father. And we're trying to work real cases in Miami. In the meantime, we're hearing about this nonsense going on in D.C., just trying to ignore it. We're like, look, that's not our problem. That's the political side of things. So again, going back to the original point, I do believe that there should be consequences, because not only does it destroy the trust of the American people, it destroyed the trust of FBI agents. We're like, what is going on in my agency? This is my director. Can I trust my FBI director? And I can tell you that the FBI has never recovered since, in my opinion, because of the destructive behavior of James Comey and others that may have been involved, Brennan, Clapper, others in the intel agencies. And, let's let them see what they've got. They've given the information to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. Let them follow the evidence. If a crime was committed, you know what they always say? No one is above the law. And you know what? You're not either. And so let's see what happens. Follow the evidence.
There you go, Griff.
Well, look, I think that to Nicole's point, accountability is the goal of this. And over the weekend, we interviewed on Fox and Friends Tulsi Gabbard as well on Saturday, and it struck me that she's making the case that, look, this is a manipulated and politicized effort to change the narrative to usurp Donald Trump's election, and that every American across bipartisan lines should care about accountability. And she said that ultimately that accountability goes all the way to the top, to former President Barack Obama. Now, I think to Cheryl's point, does this lead to actual charges? I don't know. I do think, Harris, one thing that might be in the cards to come down the pike is some congressional hearings in seeing people like Comey, like Brennan, like Clapper, like Susan Rice being called before Congress, because you would think that if there are, quote, charges brought, it's because of statements they made that were inconsistent with what was actually done according to these documents.
Yeah. Can they plead the fifth, like what we've seen here recently?
We saw an awful lot of that out of the inner circle to Biden's aides.
I don't know how much more you'll get. I guess my kind of top-down concern has to do with how far back this went if ex-President Obama was involved. I mean, they would have been working against Donald Trump to help Hillary win, to what else? What could have been the reason for all of that?
Because they wanted to stay in control, and Donald Trump was operating so far outside the establishment that I think to a lot of people whom many would consider the deep state, he was uncontrollable. He was such an unknown quantity that they were terrified that he would come in and upend the establishment. And, it's like in many ways, he has. In many ways, he has destroyed a lot of norms that people didn't realize were detrimental to this country. And I understand why DNI Gabbard has a vested interest here, because if you remember, this is something that Hillary Clinton was pushing long after she lost the 2016 election. And she said with great certainty that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. She used the term Russian asset.
Yes, she did.
And then, Tulsi Gabbard was taken aside by TSA and, customs and questioned, and she was on a list and she didn't know how she got there. Well, now she's DNI, and she'll get to the bottom of some of her personal questions, but also make sure this never happens again with any president, with any administration, with any level of the intelligence agencies who were all in collusion with each other. And the Washington Post and New York Times needs to give their Pulitzers back with this sham reporting they did.
Wow. You have a last quick word.
Well, I was going to say that there's a great piece this morning in the opinion section, foxnews.com, written by our colleague, Greg Jarrett, who wrote a book about all of this. And he goes through a lot of the reasons why the legal bar might be really high. So let's see what the DOJ comes up with. But he does kind of lay out the case of where this could or could not go, depending on.
What do you guys think? I got to be honest. I don't know if anything will come of the criminal referral. And I got to be also honest. I'm not exactly excited about what I've seen from Pam Bondi so far. Like, I haven't seen, the promises of going after the people that fabricated all this crap. But Tulsi's doing her job. I can say that for sure. Tulsi Gabbard is 100% doing her job. She is publishing this stuff. She is pushing this stuff out. And I apologize if you hear all the freedom flying overhead right now. I'm on an Air Force base, and it's the jets are just taking off. It's a little loud. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below on this one. Is anything going to come of it, or is it just more like we're going to do this, we're going to prosecute this, and nothing happens? I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Thank you guys very much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And as always, stay petty, my friends.